Saturday night podcast. We go over a bunch of different things. What is the Ken Braverman podcast? It's whatever I'm talking about. And we're talking about Twitter. We're talking about Elon Musk. He's still the only guy I know smarter than me. I don't even know him, but I know that he's smarter than me. And he's doing stuff. So let's talk about it because it's a good start, along with a lot of other things that we're going to talk about. People care about sports. People care about payroll. There's a football week 13 tomorrow we can talk about. There's a whole lot of things going on. But let's start here with what is Elon doing right now? I'm not expressing an opinion here, but did promise to conduct this poll. Should Assange and Snowden be pardoned? I said no. Yeah, God, your yeses. What's wrong with you, yes people? I think that the Snowdens, first of all, they're two different people. So you got to separate it out into two different polls, Elon. And I want to talk more about Snowden because he was an American. All right. And Assange is not. So I want to break it out nationally. Snowden, I mean, let's face it, like when you're a sysadmin, system administrator, whatever, and you can access everybody's files and really see digital traces of things, because as much as you try to mask it and as much as we try to create systems that are like impenetrable for the human so that we can't browse through records or that we have history of people browsing through records and we try to put safeguards in place to do that, that when you are a sysadmin, just like when you're working on a car, when you are up under that hood or under the lift and you're unscrewing stuff, you have the ability to see everything that's going on. And so when I think about bringing cars into places and then finding like dead animals in the back, like my mom had left a car in for like months and months and months and months and months and never driven it, and there was like dead rats in the trunk, and I couldn't find them because they buried themselves like underneath the trunk thing. And so when you bring your car in somewhere and they open it up, they know that something's been going on and they can start inferring about things. Well, Snowden stole a lot of stuff, more than so much so that he feels like a Russian asset to me. And he ended up in Russia where he keeps safe haven, which is yet another example that he was essentially working or taking that blood money from Putin, right? And when you take blood money from the Russians, I don't respect how you act. And I don't think you should just be pardoned for doing that. I think that that's a crime because it affects the rest of the world because you're empowering uh, a dictator who lies and kills. Let it not like let it be. It's obvious how bad Putin is and that it is one man very much so influencing the death and destruction of the entire world and his immediate surroundings, especially in Ukraine. So when you say should he be pardoned, I said no. I don't think so. I think you have to face the fact that you did steal material from the government that you had pledged not to obviously steal, and you provided it to not only a lot of the world, but specifically, we don't even know what you provided to foreign governments. Clearly, an agent of the Russians. It should not be, obviously, not be pardoned. Pretty wild. So you're doing dialogue with 100,000 people on Twitter Spaces. Are you really, Elon? Elon, you're always doing stuff. All right. I think I'm good with recently learned OpenAI receives a lot of its data from Twitter. Yep, I'm sure. So he's realizing what a huge platform this is, and there's a reason why he was forced into spending $44 billion on it. All right, well, good for him. It's a good transition over to stocks for a second because I want to talk about companies and YouTube especially. All right, so here we go. So now I'm about to say that Elon just smacked around Tim Cook, and all of a sudden the Apple Store, whatever. Now everything's fine. Who's he going to go after next? Is he going to go after Google? Is he going to go after YouTube? Am I going to start putting this podcast directly up on Twitter, which I probably can. I probably can upload a certain amount. I think he talked about that. I'm so far behind because he's already done everything. He just walks in, just rips up the cabinets everywhere, and is like, "We're making this thing stainless steel everywhere, baby." And anyway, we could talk about stocks, but it's going to be a lot of me talking about good and bad and what to focus on. So I was thinking about, well, like how do you how's your outlook on life? I think that affects your outlook on investing. Like I see brighter future where everything's easier and we harness algorithms, robotics, collective human information around us to better all our lives. Like as I go through my YouTube roll all the time, I'm always just watching or listening to YouTube videos, kind of no matter what I'm doing, right? Whether I'm working, whether I'm driving, whether whatever, just stuff is just rolling in the background as audio. And and I notice as my feeds grow, I'm like, well, I'm always thinking about advancements in stuff where I don't like the way things are now and I want to change them, right? And when it comes to investing, that's actually been a strategy that has gotten rewarded in the past, but also takes a lot of hits as well, because the future doesn't always occur as fast as you'd like it to, and it's not always predictable. So, but in terms of like buying long calls on companies that are doing this, I like doing that. But there are other people who think other ways about the market, and you're just playing a financial game. And so you can start to look at, companies that went down, and that's another way to play the market, because even one thing that you can always predict will happen is that people at some point will take profits. And taking profits means artificially lowering the price of these stocks whenever the person wants to take the profit, because they can just come back in 5 seconds later and buy it again if they want to. So when you think about shaving off profits as an ongoing process that's always occurring in the market, you understand why there are going to be down days in quotation marks where the market just suffers. And that's totally predictable. That will always happen. People always will be taking profits. So it's periodically always going to happen. So when that happens, then, well, if you're only focusing, as I was focusing before, on the companies that I really follow, support, want to see expand, have respect for, to have good financials, I'm rewarding them for being well-run, profitable, humanly productive capitalist countries. If you believe in capitalism in that sense, these companies became big because of what they provided to us and what they continue to provide to us. Right? Well, how do you weather a storm where there's going to be that week, that day, that month where everyone wants to take a lot of profits when all you're doing is buying long calls on companies of the future? The answer is you have to diversify, understanding that there will be days when things go down, and own puts on them. Now, I don't see the word put showing up. Well, here it shows up with Schrodinger, but they're already getting cheaper. They just don't have a product that's compatible with something like Moderna. And that's why as much as I like what they're doing about trying to program protein folding and synthesis and stuff, like on the molecular level, I don't think they've ever been able to show anything work. And that's because the human body is so exponentially complex. Do we have put appearing anywhere else? And also, did any of these, like, look where I have a price comment here? Am I saying stay away? Stay away usually means things are going down. So, well, what happened here? Yeah, pool company's worth a lot, and the interest rates are still slightly going up. So there's just a lot of room for them to go down. And buying puts on them results in days where they drop many, many dollars a share. I can put the word put there for a while, because there are going to be days when they go down. And I don't know if they're going to be huge days when they go up, because I mean, think about what is this world where all of a sudden everyone's confident to make huge long-term investments and growth in leisure type products like water and pools. What are the odds that is going to be something everyone's going to be really calm and putting money into, and home values are all of a sudden going to turn around and start increasing again at an unsustainable rate? No, that's one of the things that raising the interest rates and sustaining the raised interest rates has not tricked anyone into thinking they're going to go down. So the price of money is still up for a while. And so this kind of thing probably goes to, you see it at 330, and I'm like, I see them at 250. I mean, I like, can we sort by word here? How do we do that? Never really tried to do this to get the words. Sort ZA. There they go. Now the puts show up on top. So you can see these are all companies that I said to short, basically, which means you buy an option that says that the price is going to go down. Like the strike price option you buy on Roblox is like at 30 right now or something, because it's not very expensive. You have it expire like 3 to 6 months from now, and you watch them have some awful, awful days because they're not a profitable company. They're just a video game that's got as bad graphics as the metaverse at this point. So you can still do that. DraftKings doesn't have a lot of equity in them at $15 a share, but they're probably going down. They're also not profitable and in a very, very competitive industry. And they froze my account on the first day of football season last year. And I was in the middle of making bets. I would have won money. I would have started off the season winning money in football in 2021. And instead, they thought I was manipulating my IP address because I drive so much. And I was in 4 different states in a day. And they're like, they froze my account right before the game started. I go to make my bet, and they're like, "You're frozen." And I emailed them. I'm like, "You gonna unlock my account?" Like, no. I'm like, no. All that IP access that you see. I go, no, that's real. I was driving through Ohio and Indiana and Illinois and Kentucky and West Virginia yesterday. Yeah, that happened. Yep. And I was making bets in different states. Yep. I was using different cell towers. Yep. Did you look, or did you just freeze my account because you're a poorly run company? The answer is you just froze my account. And they didn't get back to me until after the 4 o'clock game started, and I lost. So I'm going to keep buying puts on you guys, and I'm going to keep making money because they're not well. Anyway, all right, good segue to football. We have football games on Sunday. We had one on Thursday. The Bills did beat the Patriots. Do we need to update an injury report? We should. Let's do some work, everybody, because our life never ends. And we could even update the odds because we could see how the odds have changed. Let's do both of those things. So we're gonna check out football, and pull that out, and then you got to go to the injury report here under fantasy sports, and you just have to grab the injury report. We'll grab those 2 things, and I don't think you're going to see them open up, but you will be able to see them. Go into the NFL file when they do open up. So the first thing I'm grabbing is the injury report. So the injury report comes out in a CSV export, and you just go to where it says injuries here. We're going to paste. Doesn't matter which paste you do, but it does matter if you look at the bottom, make sure that, ooh, look at this. Look at how many people came off the injury report. So we're here on a Saturday night injury report, and it's intriguing. I like talking about Saturday night injury reports because I have found anecdotally, but it's still anecdotally, it's still what I remember happening. I remember that Saturday injury reports are actually better than Sunday injury reports in general when it comes to predicting the scores of the games. And I was thinking, like, is this just a memory thing, or is this really happening? It is really happening, even though it's just a memory thing so far, and I haven't proven it. But it is something, and I'll tell you why I think it's happening. Okay. I think it's happening because at this point in the night, the very last checkup on somebody ends up being all right, well, I really don't think I can go yet, but if I have to, I'll start. And they're like, all right, well, then if they come off the questionable in the morning on Sunday and then they play and they're not on the questionable part of this list, somebody who was out comes back in or something, which rarely happens. But if it changes and they start playing these people, because I want to look at who the questionables are, like where are hurt questionable people. It's important to look at this. When it changes on Sunday, you get all these sick people that are playing, and they're not playing at 100% anyway. So it was really better to look at the Saturday night report, because this one's like a more honest report. Like somebody's health is not going to change in 12 hours unless they get sick. Actually, probably not getting better, probably getting sick. So anyway, so we've just brought in the injury report. We've just updated the odds. Now we're going to go into the picks. This all should change automatically. And it does. And you have a brand new look, and you've got projected scores. All right. So we're gonna stick around with that magnifier of 5 because we've got a lot of stats in here. So we don't have to get too complicated and too boring, but there are some underdogs. It's been overestimating the Rams, but it says that them plus points. So what's the big round robin parlay? Like, what do you take? What am I going to take? I'm probably actually going to bet a huge round robin because even though I'm not betting anymore, like I would accept doing that on a Sunday, and I'm going to do other stuff. Just one bet and not any live betting and not caring because I have to do football for everyone anyway, and I enjoy watching football. Like why not try to make it fun even though I ruin everything? So I probably will bet. What am I going to bet so that you cannot bet it because you know I have the worst luck ever? Let's figure it out. I'm going to bet. I'm going to say the Packers beat the Bears, and Jordan Love does it. Actually, that's what I think happens. I think Rodgers has accepted the season's over, and so if you hand this over to Love, of course they beat the Bears, even though this is in Chicago. They're showing up at the top of the list. I mean, I don't want to get sketchy and be like, NFL's ripe for bad luck, and when you look at stuff like this, but let's read also reading into the game to make the most accurate bet. I can't say no to this. It's only minus 190. It's the top of the list. So them to win 1. I refuse to take Detroit. The over-under is ridiculous. I just don't like everything about this game except maybe taking the under and going against the grain because when I start broadcasting stuff in the algorithm, I'm like, well, do the opposite of this. I mean, this is crazy. The over-under set at 51 already. Like you're starting at like you gotta have massive points all the time. If anything, I want to do it. I'm just too scared of that game, and I'm just gonna not do anything. San Francisco, Miami. It says San Francisco. Will there be offense? Says okay, so it says a lot of offense here, which I believe that because I'm like, you got big names like Tyreek Hill, you've got the Niners with McCaffrey. Miami is not a team that screams out defense. So I don't know what the weather's like in San Francisco, but over 46 seems doable. But it also says minus 189 San Francisco beats them. And if they're going to beat a team and they're going to stop this offense, I guess I can root for that because the algorithm said that they will do that by 9 points. So these are supposed to be winners. I'm supposed to be able to give you top-down winners, but of course, anything Detroit-Jacksonville related is just bad team versus bad team role can never be counted on. It makes me want to like remove this game. It makes me want to make Detroit go away. And oh yeah, it's going to screw up everything. But that's all right. All right, next. You've got Cincinnati, which had a high number of questionable guys beating Kansas City at plus 120 in Cincinnati. It says they do it by touchdown. But Mahomes is a magician. But this game's in Cincinnati. I'm supposed to be able to not think and just tell you to take stuff top down, right? Well, I don't have a problem with any of these 4. I want to root for Washington. And even though they have a negative win score percentage against the Giants, it says they win this game by a touchdown. I think it's properly reading Washington and how well they're playing. And Heinicke, anything can happen. It's football, but these 4 are quite interesting and really not at the worst lines I've ever seen. I'm not comfortable taking the Raiders over the Chargers, but don't ever listen to me. Listen to the algorithm. And I think the Chargers have not been playing well. What's the Chargers standings? Chargers, LA Chargers. How you doing? Chargers. Sorry, the San Diego Chargers. They're 6-5, fighting it out. And the Raiders are 4-7. They're just not a better team. The win score percentage here. See, I want to trust Washington because I want to root for them, and I enjoy what I see out of them recently. I feel like putting your money on them, you're going to get some heart out of Heinicke there. I can't say that about the Raiders. And the Chargers apparently need to win if they're looking at the playoffs. So that game's going off. It's too tough of a game to play because the algorithm disagrees with who might be fighting harder. This is why looking at football, I can really dive in and give you some assessment. And football has gotten better as it's supposed to get better throughout the season. Next, Eagles over the Titans. Says they do it by 4. Boy, this is way too close to what the odds makers say, and it's minus 205. So you've got better lines above that, right? You've got better line here, better line here. But all of these are better lines in this game. That's screaming, don't take the Eagles. Even though they probably really fight a tough one out with Tennessee and they run Henry like a wind-up Lego that he is, and he finds a way to run past Philly in a low-scoring win, maybe. I don't know. Seems like a tougher game. You can see the projected margin of victories have switched. See how there was much higher scores here. It was 7 to 12. Now we're all of a sudden down to 4. So I'm going to pull that off because of the line. So Philly and Tennessee comes off as well. Philly off. Tennessee off. Next. I'll bring this thing over here. Right here, points. Next, we've got Jets over Minnesota. I want to root for the Jets. I'm become a Jets fan. Minnesota at home has shown some nice. Wow, it says there are no points in this game. That it's a defensive battle. Mike White probably going. There's an underdog line sitting here on the Jets, and Minnesota will blow games. So there's a positive. I mean, you can't argue with the algorithm here as much as you want to. Jets +3 maybe on a parlay or round robin because that opens up a lot of other ways to win the bet. But as a straight bet, the Jets to win is acceptable here because they're an underdog. And yeah, either one of those. So right now, these are just keeping it simple, stupid is 5 winners right now. Rams over Seahawks, I don't trust that, right? You're like, why? At least the algorithm's win score percentage is negative here, meaning it doesn't really, it's a 2-point game. It says they'll cover the 7. Yuck. I don't like what's going on here. I said the don't L word, whatever that means. So we're removing Seattle and we're moving the Rams because it seems like a tough game. Next, you got the Ravens and the Broncos in a battle. And the Ravens are minus 425 because you think they're probably going to score, but it says this game is so much closer. So it's a weird thing where you're supposed to take the Broncos +9.5 because if anything, the Ravens have not shown that they are pounding anyone and holding on to that lead all year, right? Ooh. So it makes me want to take Denver +9.5 or even like +7.5 and get even a little better line. But it's not a great pick. But I'll leave it on there. Cleveland and Houston. Now it favors Cleveland 21-20, but they're minus 350. Just tough. Houston's a tough team to predict. I think we're over predicting them. So I'm just going to pull that off. I don't want to get stuck on a Cleveland bet that causes me to lose. Atlanta and the Steelers, and Atlanta barely does it, and this game is a pick'em game. But Atlanta's got a much better win percentage, and Atlanta is at home. This is not in Pittsburgh. Normally, I give Pittsburgh the benefit of the doubt here. It's right on the cusp where like you're going to win it 50% of the time. So let's stay away from that game. But it is bettable as a straight bet to bet on Atlanta, apparently. Normally, I don't like betting against the Steelers, but that's Atlanta's offense can do some things. It says that they do some things in that game. Dallas and Indianapolis, they are minus 500. And it's a 21-21 game. You get 10 points with the Colts. Do the Colts. Well, at least the algorithm, while it does by win score percentage say that Dallas annihilates the Colts, by points it doesn't. And 10 points is enormous. So the straight bet is Indianapolis +10. And if they lose by more than 10, so be it. But that is a straight bet. These are both straight bets, in my opinion. I just don't want to put them on a round robin because they don't win every time, but they're going to win more than 50% of the time. That's a lot of points where the algorithm says that the projected margins of victory are not that great. It's a football game. People try to win games. They don't try to win by 14. Like, that's not the way they work. And then you've got Patriots and Bills already happened, right? Yeah, Bills won. This look at switched it around after the injury report gave it to the Patriots. That's funny. You've got the Saints and the Bucks also at a 27-27 game. I believe that's the Monday night game. We'll find out. Come on, mouse. See, like the mouse all screwed up. There we go. Yeah, it is that game. So eventually, that's just time. No more football, but we're gonna back up. So there are picks. There's a round robin. I'm gonna bet it just because, even though I'm not betting anymore. I'm gonna bet it. And there are these games, which is Green Bay, San Francisco, Cincinnati, Washington, at the Jets somehow. At these lines, two of them being underdogs. These five teams on a round robin. I don't know what the parlay here is going to pay. Whatever. We've talked enough football. Let's go over to college basketball real quick for the day. I haven't prepared tomorrow. I'm not going to in this video, but I started doing some scores. I just want to talk about underdogs. I just want to know what happened in these underdog games really quick. I know that Buffalo won at home, but Drexel lost. So we went 1-1 on our home and away underdogs. But I know that Holy Cross won, and they're not an underdog, but they moved to an underdog line. Just want to know some of these. We didn't have any huge underdogs, but let's just check again. We're gonna ask Google real quick. Like, oh yeah, Grand Canyon's beat Wyoming. See how Wyoming was injured? That was a good one. That was a good one. What else? Did Morgan State lost to Bowling Green State, if I remember correctly. Morgan State college basketball score?
They lost 86 to 76 today against Bowling Green State.
Chattanooga won. North Dakota State college basketball score, I think they lost.
They lost 78 to 70
Buffalo wins.
Eastern Washington.
What about St. Peter's versus Fairfield college basketball score?
Here's information from ESPN.
Okay, that's going. No, St. Peter's won, apparently, against Fairfield. Yeah, so that's a winner. What about Texas Rio Grande Valley college basketball score?
They lost 90 to 72 today.
Okay, they lost.
Western Illinois.
So it's kind of split, but you do see some wins, and also you look for injuries, and that's what I'm talking about. This 89 and this 82 right here. When you're reading this board, like for example, did DePaul lose? I would imagine they did. Let's see. DePaul college basketball score.
The final score was 70.
No, they won.
72 DePaul.
Well, it doesn't work all the time, but certainly, at least it would have said don't necessarily play DePaul because they're injured. They managed to win anyway. These other ones, it said play St. Peter's, said play Grand Canyon because these teams are hurt. On top of these teams supposed to win anyway, right? So college basketball, interesting thing. I did sell one today. I guess I'll put it back up in the store for $30 a day because I have to do it every day. I mean, just like I have to do it this one I have to do every day because people keep paying me every day for it. So I'll keep doing it and send it out to those who just want to buy it that day though. Like there's no moving me around on this. Like I'm just going to do it whenever. And it's still helpful. So it's something to watch. All right. Those are those two sports. I didn't touch NBA. I didn't touch NHL. We don't need to do any more injury report talk. We talked about Elon. We talked sort of my website, Payroll. I did stocks with Payroll. So the final thing, which after all this, if you're somehow still with me on this podcast, the last thing I'm working on is cool stuff, which is writing app scripts. I think you can see this screen probably. This is the coolest stuff ever. So I'm learning how to write and automatically get the payroll file to do things like print pay stubs in order, right? So like you can go down the list and print different people's, Elon Musk's pay stub in here. There's an automated way to run a script and you just press a button. And if you have 50 employees, it's going to go down the list, 1, 2, 3. It's going to do it in order and it's going to generate PDFs of these paychecks or essentially pay stub snap records that are then sent out or accessed by the employee as their pay record. And then you can see how easily they are to manipulate them and change them. Anyway, if you don't want an automated program to do all of them for you at the end of a pay period, but if you just want to do them one time yourself, you can just click it and then print. It's not the end of the world if you don't have a robot doing that for you. But I'm learning how to automate the processes that people are asking to so that you can become a superhuman when you're doing your accounting work. And if you do run into a situation where you have hundreds of people and stuff that you're doing, you can absolutely get the macro JavaScript, running enabled version of things to do a lot of that manual stuff for you. I mean, it can generate PDFs and email them to you. So you get a bunch of here's everybody's pay stubs. You just dump them in a folder and rename them, right? Like, or not rename them, name them properly in the code, like so that the email that it sends you is a document that's named with the person's name or whatever you want to do. There's so much you can do, and I had not expanded into other languages of coding that it could to certainly be more useful in a lot of the products that I create. I just kind of, I think we all create artificial roadblocks and just stop developing at some point. But the need is there. And so I finally took the time to really start understand what's going on. And I'm happy with the Google Sheets framework as it's accessible to everybody as just like a free platform where you can house these things that I'm going to continue developing them and really do some awesome stuff with not only the payroll application, but also the tax application, which is basically I'm trying to get as much of the US tax code essentially programmed into another file that I don't have open right now. That as we get toward the end of the year, because I really got nothing to do other than that. I'm not going to be too heavily focused on all the sports stuff because I'm not selling daily subscriptions and stuff. It's just just glancing over stuff. I just don't have time because I really want to focus heavily on payroll and tax because it affects so many people's businesses. And if you ever want to run a business and you need to pay people and you want to estimate costs and stuff, this thing is just unbelievable how resourceful and how good it works. And how easy it is to update and how many people in so many different businesses across the country I have sold these to. And I mean, I develop relationships with a lot of people that use this file because when you're managing your own business and you take the plunge into saying, oh, I don't need to rely on some payroll provider that's housing all my employees' data and doing it myself. I could do it myself in my own Excel file, my own Google Sheet, and be confident that all of my reporting and tax obligations are recorded properly, and I can easily answer questions, and I know where to go for help, and I get my stuff paid on time, and I have records of it. Like everything's just done. It's just done. And I like helping people understand that no matter how big their small business is, the size of a business, if it's a business you're running, like you have a company that does stuff and has people working for it, and you're in charge of that, or you're the payroll person running it for a company and you're trying to manage all your people. I built the thing that I think is the easiest to use that allows you to program the way that you pay people and want to record their time and what they're doing and how you're paying them. You have the options of naming those types of pay essentially and doing whatever you want within the law to pay your people appropriately and to record their withholdings. And so it's the thing that gets the most views of any videos I've ever had. They have all been payroll or tax related, which will absolutely come as a surprise to anyone still listening who hears that, because you're like, no way, Ken, you're a payroll guy. The lunatic with the basketball algorithm is a payroll person. He's a payroll provider. And I'd be like, I'm not a payroll provider, but I built a program that is better than any. I think it's the best payroll providing program organizational data system that's ever been created for US payroll. I say that about a lot of my stuff and take it for what it's worth, but it's just awesome. I don't get complaints. I get people thanking me for how they turned something that used to pull their hair out all day long trying to calculate federal tax and stuff. And I just made it easy for them to just plug in and play and get answers and move on for a very, very small price. I love that. I mean, look, I'm not done reviewing formulas for next year, but I got to sit around and wait because they're not done yet. Like it's very few states are actually prepared for 2023. Oh, but you know what I did do? For those of you still with us, you know what I did do? Get excited about unemployment wage based changes. How about that? So I did start doing this, and I got about halfway through, which was the change in unemployment wage base for next year. Like Alaska's went up by $1,600, meaning that employers have to pay more unemployment tax because the wage base of wages that get taxed for unemployment that the employer has to pay have gone up in these states. Went up 1,000 in Arizona, 3,400 in Colorado. This is heavily paying unemployment. Now, I will get political here a little bit, which is I think this is the most ridiculous thing I have ever seen in my life. I think state unemployment is a joke. Because let me get this straight about what we're taxing here. We're saying employers who pay people to work for them, every time they hire and fire people and cycle people in and out, they should have to start paying more and more into a system that covers people who are not working. Okay. What? Wait a minute. You're saying if a company hires people, they have to pay more tax to people who aren't working? Yes. Yes, that is what unemployment is. It is, I don't, regressive is not even the word for this. It is financial accountability that had a stroke, is what unemployment is. Basically, you have short circuited the whole point of hiring people. If you make companies pay more money just to hire more people, to pay people that are not working, not to pay their employee, to pay people that are not working anymore. That's what that's for. So it is an employer expense. It's a ridiculous employer expense. I am not a huge fan of unemployment. I have something against the state of Connecticut. I was complaining about Connecticut. The one court case I ever lost in my life, one, was when I was taken to court for inappropriately receiving unemployment from the state of Connecticut. And that is because I had a horrible boss and I did quit and I filed for unemployment. And you can't quit and then file for unemployment. So she took me to court and they decided that I did quit. And they're like, all right, you got to pay the unemployment back. And I paid the $2,500 back that I had gotten unemployment money. This is like 2002 or something. So I have a grudge against the state of Connecticut. But the point of all that is unemployment is ridiculous. And I was a fool for trying to get it. But I heard that you get free money when you get fired. And this is a bad rule. It's bad for the economy. It's bad for everybody. I know people that use unemployment as a source of income for 12 to 18 months. I don't really respect that. I think that even though it's available, I don't think it should be used as a job. Like filing for unemployment should not be a job. You should get unemployment for like 4 weeks. Like I'll give you like a month, right? And if you don't get off your butt after a month, then you could have gotten a job in most instances. Or the government should give you a job. They shouldn't just flat out give you money, unless we're going to go on with the whole that strategy of giving everybody free stipends of cash every month to spend so that the economy doesn't flip and you just go further into debt and you pay people out a universal basic income or something, that thing. Unless we're going to go that route. But universal basic income is a different discussion than unemployment. And so when I was updating all the unemployment numbers, I was like, man, that makes me really upset that when I'm an employer in Colorado, I know I'm going to be getting hit with extra expenses whenever I hire a new employee because unemployment is ridiculous. The wage base is high and the rates are probably high as well. So I did do some updates, like Idaho up 3,400. You started naming states that you thought had super high unemployment wage bases. Can you believe Idaho is one of them at almost $50,000? You learn so much going through this. Iowa knocked it up to 3,600. Then you're like, well, who are your awesome states, right? Because there are awesome states. Let's do that. Let's sort ascending. There are states with super cheap unemployment. California. What? California. I know they got a bunch of other taxes. They got ETT tax. which I learned a lesson about that in this file. That's a different tax. So they do have something other than this, but their wage base is stuck at 7. Florida, 7. Tennessee, 7. Louisiana, 7,700. Alabama, Arizona only 8, even though they did go up 1,000 or are going up 1,000. I need to update some of these other states. Virginia, District of Columbia, only 9. But then you get some crazy states down here. Like, what? Yeah, Washington State is all employer taxes. Tough to hire people in the state of Washington, I believe, unless you're a super small business. Still it costs. Anyway, I digress. My podcast is about a million different things because I'm doing a million different things all the time. And I want to be entertained as well as rewarded educationally. I mean, I get excited to learn coding stuff, even though this is kind of boring and weird looking, because once you get it and you log these algorithms of life and things that you've done in this code form, it's nice because people kind of get to see how you think. And I see a lot of things that are really, really monotonous that drive people crazy as really, really simple algebra. And I like to provide those answers and assistance to people to see how easy it can actually be. Because understanding numbers and data and the way that I understand it, I believe I can effectively communicate that to people, even if you can't totally recreate and code and do all the things I do in here. But I get you to understand how it's structured and why it works and you know how to fix things. Stuff like that. All right. So good luck, everyone. I hope you enjoyed that I hope you enjoyed the podcast. I hope the podcast was listenable. I had a good time, and I'm going to get back to learning JavaScript and getting PDFs to create themselves. I'm so excited because it doesn't work yet. But trust me, I'm gonna break everything before we get this right because that's how my life is. What is SSID? What code are you? We need to learn. All right. Good luck. May all your podcasts be listenable.